My name is Madeline Harper, 29, and until last Thanksgiving, I believed that success, loyalty, and sacrifice could somehow earn me a place back in my own family. After 3 years building my life in San Francisco, promotion, my own apartment, and everything I once dreamed of, I returned to Cedar Ridge with gifts in my trunk and hope in my chest. But when my father opened the door, his face turned to stone. "We don't have a daughter. You need to leave," he said flatly. Behind him, my brother Logan smirked, dangling the purple swan keychain from my 16th birthday like a victory trophy. Before I take you back to the perfect family behind that slammed door, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, and hit that subscribe button if you've ever had to fight for a seat at your own family's table. Because what happened next? It didn't just change me, it changed everything. Cedar Ridge is the kind of town where, if you sneeze in your kitchen, your neighbor will check on you from their balcony. Every street corner holds a memory. Every house has eyes and ears. People don't just live here, they perform a life. And no family was more praised than mine, the Harpers. The photo hanging in the center of our living room, the one no one was allowed to touch, stood as proof. A glossy, oak-framed portrait. My father, Daniel Harper, stood tall in the middle, shoulders squared like a soldier, clean-shaven, eyes the cold blue of mountain stone. My mother, Grace, sat to the right, wearing a modest floral dress, her brown hair neatly pinned up, hands gently folded over her lap like a lady from another time. I stood on the left, my younger brother Logan on the right. Looking at it, you'd think, the perfect American family. But if you had ever lived inside that house, you'd know. The beauty was only skin deep. My father was a former Marine. After his service, he started a home repair business, Harper Home Fix. He believed in absolute discipline, believed that men carry the weight, women stay in their place, that success was measured by calloused hands and sweat, never by degrees or numbers on a computer screen. His catchphrase was, "Harper doesn't complain, Harper delivers," but what he never said out loud was, that Harper standard only applied to me. Grace, my mother, was a sweet woman caught between two fires. She cooked beautifully, sang softly, and had a way of hugging me that could quiet every storm in my chest. But she also lived by the rule of keeping the peace, even when the storm was my father. I remember the times I cried after being scolded at dinner. She'd quietly come into my room afterward, stroke my hair and whisper, "He's only strict because he worries about you. He sees how strong you are. That's why he expects more." And I believed her. For years, I truly believed that. Logan, my younger brother, was the only one who lived freely in that house. I was 3 years older than Logan. I woke up at 6 to do the dishes, fold laundry, prep dinner, then stayed up late studying. Logan woke at 9, had his breakfast, and disappeared with a baseball bat or a PlayStation controller. I brought home straight A's and my father simply nodded, "Yeah, keep it up." Logan brought home a D in math, a C in physics, but he got an A in PE, and Dad threw an arm around him, laughing heartily. "That's what I'm talking about. A man's gotta be strong. That's my boy." I learned to keep my mouth shut. Logan learned how to play the helpless victim waiting to be rescued. By the time I was 12, I already knew how to use Excel. I tracked our household expenses, compared grocery store prices, clipped coupons to help Mom. At 12, Logan shattered the living room TV playing baseball indoors. Dad gave him a gentle punishment. No video games for 3 days. I felt like an unpaid employee in my own family, doing everything, achieving everything, yet never earning recognition. Logan just had to show up and was instantly the good kid. When I was a junior in high school, I started getting interested in finance. I was drawn to the logic, the structure of numbers. One day, I told my dad, "I want to study economics, maybe investment or financial analysis." He frowned and shook his head. "Finance is just a bunch of tricks. Besides, what's a girl gonna do with that? You'll get married, have kids, pick something you can do from home." I stood still, swallowing my anger. Logan, sitting next to me, whistled under his breath. I remember the one and only time my father ever praised me, when I won first place in the statewide math competition. I came home beaming, holding the trophy. He glanced at it, nodded once, then turned to Logan and asked, "Did you master that new pitching move yet?" To the town of Cedar Ridge, we were still the model family, a strict, graceful mother, a son who excelled at sports, a daughter who was studious and obedient. But on the inside, I lived like a useful ghost. They saw me when they needed something done, but they never truly saw me. UC Berkeley was my heart's choice. They had one of the top applied finance programs and an incredible network of female mentors. Red Knight hid my documents under my pillow and snuck them into the mail after my evening shift at the town library. I still remember how my hands trembled when I hit send, not out of fear of rejection, but fear that my father might find out. Meanwhile, Logan was launching his third business venture after dropping out of community college halfway through his first semester because the professors didn't get his learning style. Dad gave him startup money to open a car wash. 3 months later, it went bankrupt. He forgot to pay the electricity bill. Dad wasn't angry. He clapped Logan on the back like an old comrade and said, "Every failure's a lesson, son. Keep trying. As long as you're here with family, that's what matters." But I was never allowed to try anything. When the acceptance letter from UC Berkeley arrived, I had to rush to the post office to pick it up because I knew if Dad saw it first, he'd tear it to pieces without even reading. I'd received a full scholarship, including housing and living expenses, which meant I could go without asking a single penny from my family. But when I told Dad about my decision, he insisted on seeing my family. As we sat at the dinner table, the air froze in an instant. The moment I finished speaking, his spoon clattered into his bowl, the sound colder than the glare he shot at me. "What did you just say?" His voice was low, even, and dangerous. I swallowed hard and kept my voice steady. "I got a full scholarship to UC Berkeley. I'm moving in August." He leaned forward, elbows on the table, staring at me like I'd just committed treason. "Who do you think you are? A woman, alone in some city full of traps, studying some nonsense that can't even tell real money from fake." I cut in, lifting my head to meet his eyes for the first time. "Just because you don't understand finance doesn't mean it doesn't matter. I'm not abandoning this family. I'm just choosing to live my own life. Mistake." I had just triggered the bomb. He slammed his hand down on the table. My mother flinched. Logan smirked and scooped another piece of meat onto his plate like he was watching a movie. "You walk out of this house without my permission, don't bother coming back. I won't be there to catch you when you fall flat on your face. You think having a scholarship makes you better than me? I built this house with my bare hands, and you use that rebellious brain to shame this family." That night, my mother quietly knocked on my door. She didn't say a word, just sat down on the edge of my bed and held my hand for a long time. "You're so much stronger than I ever was," she whispered. "If I had half your courage, maybe I would have gone farther than just circling this kitchen all my life." She pulled an envelope from her coat pocket. Inside was $500, 0 cents. The money she'd saved by secretly selling her homemade pies to the neighbors. "Take it. It's not much, but if you ever find yourself lost, you'll always have a place to come back to." I hugged her tightly, as if the next time might be a long, long way off. The next morning I packed my bags. No one came to see me off. Dad didn't even leave his room. Logan scrolled through his phone, not bothering to say goodbye. Only Mom stood at the door, eyes red, giving me the faintest nod as I drove my old Honda out of Cedar Ridge. What I didn't know then was that I would no longer be a daughter in that household. And I certainly didn't imagine that one day I would return to that very same house, but with an entirely different title. Owner. 2 years after I left Cedar Ridge, my phone rang on a Monday night. It was my mother. I nearly dropped my cup of tea when her name flashed on the screen. It had been weeks without a single message. When I answered, her voice was trembling, barely recognizable. "Madeline, we're about to lose the house." Turns out my father's repair company, Harper Home Fixed, had gone bankrupt. They'd lost a major city contract after a labor lawsuit, and soon after a client. Then came the bills, the bank loans, and finally, the foreclosure notice. I sat there in stunned silence. That house, no matter how many painful memories it held, was still where my mother lived. It was the garden she tended to every morning, the kitchen where she made her potato soup every winter. "Your father doesn't know I'm calling," she said, voice choked with guilt. "He'd never accept begging from the daughter who walked away. But if we lose the house, I don't know how I'll survive." I didn't need much time to think. The very next morning I called my attorney. I formed an LLC, Birch Holdings, deliberately leaving out the Harper name. Then I contacted the bank directly, the one holding my parents' mortgage. Being in finance, I knew exactly what the process required. I used a portion of my personal investment fund to buy back the house, putting down 40% up front, and restructured the remaining balance into a new loan under the LLC's name. Each month, I would transfer money from my account in San Francisco so that the company could make the payments, without a single document bearing my name. To everyone in Cedar Ridge, it looked like some miraculous intervention from a generous bank. But I knew. I had just saved my family from losing everything. Mom exhaled in relief when I finished explaining. "We'll keep this quiet. Let's call it financial restructuring due to positive repayment history. Your father will believe that." I nodded over the phone, throat tight. I did it because I couldn't imagine Mom having to leave the daisy garden she'd tended since I was 5. In the months that followed, I remained in San Francisco, buried in work. But I still sent birthday cards, Christmas gifts. I still called every Sunday. At first, Mom answered. She whispered loving words like she was afraid someone might hear. But then, things started to change. My texts stopped getting replies. My calls rang out and went straight to voicemail. I sent emails. No response. I had flowers delivered to Mom's house for her birthday, sent for by Mr. L. Harper. Tried to reassure myself. Maybe she's busy. Maybe her phone's broken. Maybe. Until one day, I saw Logan post a photo on Facebook, a cozy family dinner with the caption, "Family first. Real family sticks together." In the photo, Mom was smiling. Dad was raising a glass. And me? It was as if I had never existed. What I felt wasn't anger. It was something cold rising from my chest to my throat, like being stabbed from the inside out. Me, the one paying so they could keep that roof over their heads. Me, the one told, "Don't come back if you walk away." Me, who still called every Sunday without. Now I had become the outsider in the very story of my own life. A few weeks later, I tried calling again late at night. A cold, automated voice replied, "The number you have dialed is no longer in service." Something didn't feel right. The next day, I called the phone carrier, pretending to inquire about billing information for Grace Harper. After a few security checks, the agent confirmed. The account had been upgraded by Logan Harper, listed as the primary account holder. That's when my gut told me something was seriously wrong. A month later, I sent a handwritten letter, clear penmanship, heartfelt words, requesting a signature upon delivery. No response. The next month, I mailed a Whole Foods gift card for Mom, clearly addressed to her name. The package came back stamped in red ink. Recipient, no longer at this address. But when I checked the bank records, the mortgage payments were still being withdrawn on time from my account. And that's when the truth hit me like a beam of sunlight. Someone was deliberately cutting off contact between me and my mother. And if my instincts were right, that someone was Logan. The same little brother who once dangled my bedroom keys in front of me with a smirk. The one living in the house I was quietly paying for while erasing me from my own mother's memory. But if there's one thing numbers have taught me, it's this. No truth stays hidden forever. Eventually, everything is reconciled. In my 3 years in San Francisco, I rose from an intern making coffee to an investment analyst at a leading venture capital firm, handling mid-stage tech startups. I bought a small apartment in Pacific Heights with a balcony overlooking the bay. Each morning, I drank coffee in the cool sunlight, listening to seagulls and the soft clang of streetcars below. I traveled across Europe for work smoke with CEOs and invested in futures. I had great colleagues, brilliant mentors, people who called me Harper, the math wizard. But there was one thing I didn't have, a family to share it all with. I used to think I'd gotten used to the silence. But on my second Thanksgiving in San Francisco, when everyone in the office rolled their suitcases home and I sat alone with a pizza watching Netflix, I broke down crying, for something painfully simple. I have no place to go back to. Still, I kept the habit alive, as if one day, magic might return. I sent Lunar New Year cards, Christmas cards, birthday cards to Mom, handwritten, carefully penned, sealed with floral stamps. Sent luxury gift baskets, artisan pies, imported red wine, all addressed to the old house in Cedar Ridge. Not once did I hear back. I even tried emailing Mom, just a few quiet lines. I hope you're doing okay. If you need anything, you can call me anytime. The email didn't bounce back, but it was never answered. And Logan? He continued living like the star of a feel-good family sitcom. On Facebook, he posted photos of roasting turkey with Dad, arranging flowers with Mom, building a killer gaming room in the basement, captioned with smug little hashtags. Nicholas and I. Sometimes he'd tag Mom in a picture and write, "The only woman who truly gets me. Mom knows best." I read those lines like someone pressing salt into an open wound. Painful, bitter, and somehow absurd. Me, the one paying for that very roof, had been rewritten as the daughter who vanished without a word. And just when I'd started to learn how to bury the old memories in the farthest drawer of my heart, a message came from nowhere. On a Saturday night in November, while I was working late on a Q4 report for an investment deal, my phone lit up. Sender, Mom. I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. I tapped it open. The message was short, just one line. "Come home for Thanksgiving, sweetheart. I miss you so much. Maybe things are different now." I read that message 100 times. I didn't know how many tries it had taken her to send it. I didn't know if Dad knew. I didn't know if Logan was still hiding her phone. But I knew one thing. It wasn't faked. There was a softness in that line, a subtle tremble, something only Mom could write. I pressed the phone to my forehead and closed my eyes. My whole body trembled, not from fear, but from hope. Part of me screamed, "Don't be stupid, they disowned you. They don't deserve you." But another part, the childlike part still hiding deep inside, whispered, "But Mom's still there. She's still waiting." Called Jessica, my best friend and upstairs neighbor, the one who'd seen me through all the missed calls, the lonely holidays, and the time I cried under the pine tree in Golden Gate Park because the only Christmas card I got was from my boss, not my mom. "Jess," I said, my voice rasping, "my mom wants me to come home for Thanksgiving." She was silent for a few seconds, then gently asked, "Do you think you're ready?" I didn't know. But I knew it was time. I took a week off, booked a flight, picked out gifts, carefully, thoughtfully. An engraved Italian leather wallet for Dad, a deluxe gardening set for Mom, and for Logan, even with shards still lodged in my chest, I bought the GPS sports watch he once dreamed of, not out of forgiveness, but because I wanted to walk into that house with nothing to be ashamed of. On the morning of my departure, I locked up my apartment in San Francisco, stood still in the cold November fog, my hand gripping the suitcase handle. I didn't know what waited for me in Cedar Ridge. I arrived in town around noon on Wednesday, 2 days before Thanksgiving. The little town hadn't changed much, still the same row of weathered homes, the flaking welcome sign dangling at the street corner, and Denny's grocery store where I used to buy peppermint candy after school. But when I turned onto Evergreen Lane, the road to the old house, my chest began to tighten. I pulled over to the curb, both hands clenched around the steering wheel. In front of me stood the cream-colored house with its reddish-brown tiled roof, the place I once lived, once cried in, once dreamed of escaping. But something felt off. The fence had been repainted a cold gray. The flower bed where Mom used to grow daisies was now bare dirt. And hanging from the porch was a brand new sign that read, "Harper Home," polished and proud, as if daring me to protest. I opened the car door and stepped out. My hand trembled slightly as I picked up the gift bag. I straightened my coat, smoothed my dress, took a deep breath and walked toward the door. I rang the doorbell. The chime echoed, electronic, unfamiliar. Not the soft mechanical bell Mom used to love. The door opened. My father, Daniel Harper, stood there. He looked older than I remembered, more silver in his hair, more hollowness in his face, but the steel in his eyes was unchanged. "Dad," I began, trying to smile though my voice had already gone hoarse. He didn't respond, just stared at me like I was a stranger. Then, in a voice flat and cold as granite, he said, "There is no daughter named Madeline in this family. You've got the wrong address." I heard something inside me crack. All of me. The little girl who used to curl up crying in a corner after being unjustly scolded. The teenage girl who once prayed to hear the words, "I'm proud of you," from her father. It all shattered in that moment. I took a step back, nearly stumbling off the high front step, and then Logan stepped out, wearing a sporty hoodie, his hair slicked back, that same half-smirk I remembered. equal parts charm and contempt. In his hand was a ring of silver keys. Dangling from it was a purple swan keychain, the one Mom had given me on my 16th birthday. "Oh, wow. You really came back," Logan said, his voice dripping sugar like poisoned candy. "Too bad your old room's a gym now, and a live stream studio too. Do you like the new paint?" I swallowed my anger and gently set the gift bag down on the front step. "I didn't come to visit my old room," I said, my voice calmer than I even expected. "I came to visit the house I bought 3 years ago." Both Dad and Logan froze. "What did you just say?" my father growled. I pulled out my phone and tapped a number. The line rang on the other end. "I'm calling First Oregon Credit Bank. This is Madeline Harper, representing Mason Birch Holdings. I'd like to verify the legal status of the property at 1211 Evergreen Lane, Cedar Ridge." Logan scoffed. "What are you even trying to pull? You think you can scare us with some fake phone calls?" I pressed speaker. "Hello, Ms. Harper," came the banker's voice, crisp and clear. "The property located at 1211 Evergreen Lane is currently owned by Mason Birch Holdings. The legal representative is Miss Madeline Harper. The past 3 years of mortgage payments have all been made from her personal account at San Francisco Bay Bank." Silence. The kind of silence that slaps you across the face with truth. My father went pale. Logan's mouth dropped open, then flushed a furious red. I ended the call and slipped my phone back into my coat pocket. "I bought this house back when the bank was about to foreclose. I've been paying the mortgage out of my own pocket every month. And the two of you? You've lived here like I never existed." Just then, my mother stepped outside. Still petite, with strands of silver streaking through her hair and dark circles under her tired eyes. But when she saw me, her gaze lit up, then quickly shifted to worry. "Adeline," she breathed, rushing forward to embrace me. My throat closed. I thought I had no more tears left to cry, but the moment she said my name, my heart cracked open all over again. "Mom," I said, trying to stay composed. "Did you know about this? I bought this house. I paid so that you and Dad wouldn't lose it. I did it for you." She looked at my father, then at Logan. Finally, she let out a sigh heavy, with years of hiding. "Yes, you saved this house, but I kept it from your father, because I knew he'd never accept it. I'm sorry, Madeline." By then, neighbors had started gathering. Across the street, Mrs. Peterson stood by her fence, phone in hand, already recording. A kid on a bike stopped at the corner. A few people whispered to each other. One man muttered under his breath, "Is that Madeline Harper?" Thought she ran off for good. And then, like a plot twist in a TV drama, a police car pulled up at the end of the street. Out stepped Sheriff Jack Collins, the same man who'd pulled me over for speeding when I was 17. "What's going on here?" he asked, looking at my father. Mrs. Peterson called in a disturbance, yelling and possible altercation outside. This residence. My father flinched. Logan immediately retreated into the house. I stepped forward, shoulders squared. "Hello, Sheriff Collins. No altercation. Just some truth finally being spoken." I pulled a copy of the house deed from my handbag, something I always carried whenever I came back to Cedar Ridge. "I'm the legal owner of this property, and today I was turned away by my own family." At the front door of the home I saved, Sheriff Collins nodded, flipping through the paperwork. As he scanned the pages, a look of respect slowly grew in his eyes. My father lowered his head. Logan disappeared completely. My mother stepped down from the porch, came beside me, and gently placed her hand over mine. For the first time in years, I didn't feel alone, and in that moment, I realized I was no longer the daughter they had rejected. I was the woman who rebuilt everything, with my own strength, with a wounded heart, and with a spirit that never surrendered. And if anyone in that house still thought I was just that girl who ran away, they had just learned a very hard lesson about what it means to return. After Sheriff Collins drove away, my mother led me inside. The living room, once filled with the scent of cinnamon and vanilla candles, now smelled like cold pizza, energy drinks, and Logan's stale sweat. Mom's hands trembled as she made tea. My father stood frozen beside the fireplace, where my photo used to hang. Now only bare, ghostly patches remained, like teeth pulled from a smile. I glanced around the room and blurted out, "Where's my picture?" Mom paused mid-motion. Dad said nothing, then footsteps echoed from upstairs. Logan. He entered with a face I had never seen before, unsettled, shaken. "What more do you want?" he growled. "You've had your performance. Enough with the drama." I looked him straight in the eyes. "And you? Were you planning to sell the house I paid for so you could cover your poker debts? Or crypto losses?" Both Mom and Dad turned to him. His face went pale. "I don't know what you're talking about," he stammered, but the confidence was gone from his voice. I stepped forward and pulled a folder of documents from my bag. I had printed everything. Every financial record related to the house, including the forged ownership transfer Logan had submitted. He'd faked my name, copied the LLC seal, and listed himself as the new legal owner. "I don't need your confession," I said. "The police will take care of that if necessary. But our parents deserve to know the truth." Mom's hands trembled as she flipped through the documents. Dad picked them up and squinted at the fine print. His face drained of color. "Logan, you signed my name on these?" he asked, voice rough as gravel. "It was just a draft," Logan shouted, now unraveling. "I was going to restructure the deed, that's all. It's easier to secure business loans that way." "You were going to sell the house?" Mom asked, her voice cracking, eyes red. "I owe people." "You don't understand, Mom. If I don't get the money, they—" "Who?" I cut in. "Who are they? Your bookie? Your crypto cult? Or those angel investors that only exist in your fantasy?" I didn't know which part hurt more. That Logan was willing to sell the roof over our mother's head, or that after living 3 years in a house paid for by my money, he still felt entitled, still felt zero gratitude. Mom staggered back and sank into a chair. I looked around, and suddenly realized something. This room was empty. No trace of me remained, no photo frames, no old books, not even the birthday cards I had sent. I turned to Mom, voice catching in my throat. "Mom, did you ever get my cards? The Christmas gifts?" She shook her head slowly. "No, I thought I'm the owner of this house. I have every right," I replied coldly. My old room, now Logan's gym. Reek of vape smoke and sweat. In the corner stood a black plastic storage bin, loosely locked. I opened it, and my heart clenched. Inside were all the handwritten letters, cards, and envelopes I'd sent to Mom, unopened, some crumpled, some still faintly scented with the perfume I used to spray. "Why did you—" I screamed. Logan stood speechless, face flushed deep red. For the first time, he had no comeback. I carried the whole bin downstairs and dumped it onto the table in front of our parents. "These are everything I sent to Mom for 3 years. Logan kept them all. He said nothing. He made sure Mom never saw a word from me. He built a story that I had abandoned this family, and he lived in the house I paid for like he was the one who saved it." Mom buried her face in her hands and sobbed. Dad sat frozen. Then he turned to Logan, looking at him like he was a stranger. "I've been blind all these years," he whispered. Logan collapsed into a chair, and for the first time in my life, I saw him cry. "I just wanted to be like her," he choked. "But I'm not good at anything. No one believes in me. No one ever invested in me. Because you lied. Because you betrayed us," I said quietly. "It's not that you're not good. It's that you never truly tried." And I didn't feel triumphant. I only felt tired. And when someone you once called your little brother not only rejected your love, but stole the one chance you had to reconnect. "I can forgive a lot of things," I said as I stood up. "But I won't let you take anything else from me. Not anymore." That night there was no dinner. No turkey, no pumpkin pie. Just 3 adults sitting around a dining table, once the heart of every Thanksgiving, and one person hiding in a bedroom upstairs, too ashamed to come out, knowing everything had just collapsed. I, Madeline Harper, was no longer the erased daughter. I was the legal owner of this house. And I was ready to take back control, not out of vengeance, but to end the chaos that had gone on far too long. I placed a stack of documents in front of my parents, each page printed, highlighted, and clearly explained. "This is the rental agreement. From now on, you'll be living here as tenants under me, the landlord." My mother flinched. "Madeline, I don't want you to feel like I'm a burden." I gently squeezed her hand, my voice soft but steady. "You're not a burden, but if I don't draw clear boundaries, someone else will exploit you again, and next time we could lose everything." My father sat in silence for a long while, then finally he spoke, voice as coarse as rusted iron. "I won't sign. I don't take handouts." I nodded, calm, and pulled out another sheet. Then here's the alternative. 30-day notice of eviction per Oregon state law. The house will be listed for public sale, and I have every legal right to do it. Dad looked at me, and for the first time, he no longer saw a little girl. What's the rent? He asked coldly. $1 a month, I replied, but in return, everything must be transparent. I'll handle major maintenance. I retain all legal rights. No one makes changes without written consent. No loans against the house, no transfers. Nothing without my approval. And Logan, Mom whispered. I turned to Dad. One more condition. Logan must leave this house by tomorrow morning. No one protested. No one begged. Mom nodded. Dad only flinched slightly. I continued. I'm not pressing charges. Even though forging documents, intercepting mail, and intentionally cutting off communication are all grounds for prosecution. But I won't make Mom sit through a courtroom because of her son. All I ask is this. Logan must enroll in a gambling rehab program and cannot return until he's completed it. I had already printed the intake forms for a certified recovery program in Portland. I'd called ahead. They had space, and they were ready to welcome him the following week. I placed the envelope in front of his bedroom door, knocked 3 times, then walked away. Late that night, I heard heavy footsteps stepping out of the room. Logan didn't look at me. He kept his head low, quietly stuffing clothes into a duffel bag, leaving behind the gaming chair, the computers, the digital drawing tablet, everything bought with borrowed credit from Dad. Mom walked him to the door. No hugs, no tears, just a single sentence. If you still love me, then be brave this time. He nodded slightly, then stepped out into the cold November fog, like a lost boy finally being forced to walk on his own. And me? I didn't feel joy. I didn't feel vindicated. For the first time in my life, I didn't need my father's approval. I didn't need anyone's pat on the back saying, "You did good." I didn't need permission to exist in my own story anymore. Before going to bed, I signed the rental agreement. So did my parents. One symbolic $1 per month, but its real worth was in the boundaries it defined, the rules it set, the truth it named. I looked at Mom one last time in the kitchen, where she was reorganizing half-empty spice jars. Mom, I said, this time, I'm not leaving. But I'll never go back to being the shadow in this house again. Tears welled in her eyes as she nodded. This time, Madeline, you are the light. It's been 6 months since that explosive Thanksgiving in Cedar Ridge. 6 months since the day my father disowned me at the front door, only for me to turn the entire power dynamic on its head with nothing but the truth. Now spring has painted the town in soft greens, and I, Madeline Harper, am sitting on the back porch of the old house, a mug of hot tea in hand, watching the garden my mother just replanted. The new daisies are standing tall, just like her. The woman who spent years being forced to bow her head to nothing has gone back to the way it was. But nothing is as it used to be either. My father, Daniel Harper, after months of resistance, finally agreed to therapy. It wasn't easy. At first, he entered each session like he was walking into a battlefield, but slowly he began to listen. He started asking instead of commanding. He learned that silence isn't strength, and that power is no substitute for love. For the first time in my life, he said to me, I'm sorry for letting you fight alone. I didn't forgive him immediately, but I smiled and said, I don't need you to be perfect. I just need you to be honest. As for my mother, Grace, she's blooming again now that the winds have stopped howling. She opened a little handmade candle shop right here in Cedar Ridge, selling scents from vanilla and cedarwood to fresh-cut daisies from her own garden. The store is small, named Graceful Light. Most of her customers are local women, old friends she'd never had the chance to go out with before. She even joined a bus tour around Oregon, saw the ocean in Florence, stood at the edge of Crater Lake for the first time in 30 years of being anchored to a kitchen. I don't cook out of duty anymore, she laughs. I cook because I want to. And me? I got promoted. After a successful investment in a fintech startup founded by women, I officially became the regional investment director for the West Coast at the very VP firm where I started as an intern at 23. I launched a free mentorship program for young women pursuing finance. I called it She Counts because every woman deserves to be heard, to be counted, and to be mapped onto the landscape of success. I'm no longer afraid of the holidays. I spend Easter at my mother's, Labor Day back in San Francisco with friends. I don't wait for anyone to call anymore, but I still get the calls. And Logan? He moved into a modest apartment complex near Portland. He works warehouse shifts now, clocking in on time, punching out like everyone else. It's not his dream job, but it's a real one. Every month, a small amount shows up in my account. No note, just silent numbers, always on time. Sometimes it's $50, sometimes $80. No one forced him. I'd only given one condition: pay what you can, but don't disappear again. One day I got a small package from an unfamiliar address. No return name. Inside was the purple swan keychain, the one Logan once dangled in my face with a sneer. This time, he placed it in a box. No note, no explanation, and I didn't need one. The house in Cedar Ridge, I've since transferred it into a family trust. My parents are legally protected, but no one, not even them, can sell it, mortgage it, or strip away my rights again. Everything now is clear, legal, and aligned with the value I was once denied. And then, one April afternoon, when I stopped by for a visit, I noticed something different. Along the hallway wall, where every photo of me had once been removed, now hung a full gallery. A picture of me in my UC Berkeley graduation cap, a photo from Silicon Valley accepting the Emerging Investor Award, and a new photo, our whole family standing in graceful light during the candle shop's grand opening. Stood there for a long time, fingers grazing each frame. Not because I needed to be put back on the wall to feel valid, but because this time, I knew I wasn't there as someone else's version of me. I was there because I fought for that space. None of us are perfect. We may never return to the warm innocence of childhood we once lost, but we've started living honestly. No more lies, no more silent bargains. No more wounds hidden under smiles. Just clear boundaries, real affection, and a house rebuilt, not with bricks, but with truth and resilience. This isn't a fairy tale ending, but it's a liberating one, and the beginning of a life more grown, more grounded than I ever imagined. Have you ever had to choose truth over peace in your own family, or stand your ground not out of anger, but out of love for yourself? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Let's talk about it. Don't forget to like this video and hit that subscribe button if these stories of healing, hard choices, and real family reckonings resonate with you.